What's up everyone, Zach Seif here, and today we're going to go over how I utilize both single coil and humbucking guitars in the same preset. So one of the biggest challenges that most people tend to face while using amplifiers or modeling units in general is when they switch from a guitar that mostly uses single coil pickups to a guitar that mostly uses humbucker style pickups. And for those of you who may not be too familiar with the difference, basically when we're talking about pickups, there's two main categories. You have single coil pickups, which are a single magnet that captures the sound and the vibration of the guitar and then converts it from an acoustic signal to an electric signal, and it comes from the output jack of your guitar into the input of a pedal board or an amplifier. Meanwhile, a humbucker is when you have two magnets together and they create a stronger, fuller signal that's also quieter in operation. There's something called 60 cycle hum. So sometimes you get feedback when everything's plugged into the same circuit in the house and stuff like that. And the humbucker defeats that noise by literally bucking the hum because these two pickups are wired together, canceling out that 60 cycle hum, which allows for a quieter operation. But I thoroughly enjoy using both styles of guitars live, especially with the Ever After band, which is my wedding band that I'm in, where a lot of the repertoire that we perform was originally recorded on single coil guitars, especially early on in the night when we do a lot of funk, pop, and Motown stuff. But later on, as the evening goes, everything was recorded with humbuckers for all of the pop punk and rock and metal stuff. So how do I use one preset on the Fractal so that I only have to worry about balancing one set of tones live? So what's the big deal if you use both of these guitars at the same time with the same setup? Well, kind of like I mentioned before, single coil pickups have a weaker output, which means they don't have as much volume to feed the front end of an amplifier like a humbucker does, so you tend to have very drastic volume differences, especially noticeable on clean tones where you don't have a lot of gain from the amp giving you additional natural compression and additional volume. Today I'm going to dive in and show you 2 or 3 ways that we can use both kinds of guitars in the same preset. So let's get started. So the best way to set up a preset in any sort of modeling unit, this works for the Axe-Fx, the Kemper, the Quad Cortex, the Helix, anything that uses digital amplification. So what you're going to do is set up your preset as normal, dial it in for whatever guitar you use mostly. So for me, it's mostly humbuckers. So I'll set up a tone where I think it sounds pretty good, just kind of off the bat. But when I go from position 5 on this guitar to position 4, it splits this humbucker into a single coil. And if you check out this leveling tool on the Fractal, the volume difference is pretty noticeable. That's a pretty noticeable difference, and live, it can be easy for that single coil sound to get lost in the mixer. Here are a couple ways that I remedy that. The first one is you can add a compressor in the front, and that'll help boost your lower signals to make them a little louder, and it'll take your louder signals and bring them down a little bit, compressing them to make them just a tad quieter. And this helps to kind of smooth out your entire response of the guitar. But you want to be careful because you don't want to overdo it and overcompress your tone. So here's one example of that. So if I turn this on right now, which I have assigned to one of my control switches, it'll make those single coil tones a bit louder. While keeping the humbucker tones kind of level. You're still going to get the tonal differences, so the humbucker is going to be a fuller, warmer tone from the single coil, which is a little more high-end heavy and a little less full because it's only a single magnet. But if you look at the leveler and you use your ears, they're a lot more balanced volume-wise. So here's the single coil pickup without the boost. And with. Again, without. And again, going from humbucker to single coil, so here's the humbucker. Single. So that works exceptionally well for clean tones. What happens if we go to high gain tones? Let's check that out. Well, right now on the humbucker tone, it's going to give you that classic kind of Marshall tone. But what happens when we go from the humbucker position to the single coil position, which is just the bridge pickup by itself? Definitely gets a bit thinner in tone. So if we turn on that compressor again, you'll notice here I'm using different settings. I'm not actually compressing at all. I have the mix set to 0, but I am using it as a pure volume boost. And that's because if I turn on this compressor using a control switch, it'll stay on in every scene until I turn it off, which means I can use it the entire time I'm using a single coil equipped guitar or a humbucking guitar with split coil mode. And I don't have to worry about turning it on and off for each individual scene or using a completely separate preset. So I'm just using it as a pure volume boost to just kind of help to push it a little bit more, to get a little bit more of the gain back that we lose by cutting the volume down from a humbucker to a single coil. And it just kind of sounds like it fattens it up a little bit. So again, I'll play without it. And again, this is just using a single bridge magnet. And then with. So again, it's subtle, but it's there. So what happens if we try this with an actual single coil equipped guitar? Let me go grab my telly and I'll be right back. If you're enjoying this video and getting something out of it, I would sincerely appreciate if you took just 2 quick seconds to hit that subscribe button down there. It is the most important factor in helping this channel grow and reach more musicians such as yourself. So again, please take 2 seconds, hit that subscribe button, share this video with your friends, leave a like, a comment. It helps out more than you can possibly know, and it's of no additional cost to you. Thank you. Now we have my lovely LsL T-Bone Custom spec. This is my telly style guitar. Go check out the team at LsL. I absolutely love these guys. They've helped me spec out 2 custom guitars, and I absolutely love them. We went with a blackguard kind of telly look for this one, and the neck, I don't know how well you can see, it's got some flame on it, which I didn't initially order. That was like a little bonus gift that I got. So really happy with this guy. But it is through and through, looks like a telly, sounds like a telly. It's a telly. So again, it sounds like that. I set this preset up for mostly humbucking guitars, but again, if we kick on that compressor, we go from this It makes it sound even more like a telly. We have just a little bit of compression helping to bring up the volume and to help just kind of even everything out. I have an 8 dB boost because the difference between a humbucker and a single coil, at least the guitars I'm using, this is going to vary depending on what brand, make, and model you're using. So I find that 8 dB is the difference between LsL's vintage style single coils in both my telly and my Strat versus the Musicman and Aristides guitars that I have, which are medium high output humbuckers. And the same goes for the crunch channel. I like it a lot without the extra little bit of volume boost from the compressor because it gives me more of a natural kind of vibe. I'm going to turn off this EQ because it's not doing anything, but I turn it on. Again, it just kind of gooses it a little bit, gives you just a little bit more to work with there. So using a compressor is the main way that I kind of toggle between my single coil and humbucker guitars, because EQ wise, if the single coil is a bit brighter, I can just take my tone knob and turn it from like 10 to 8, and it definitely solves any sort of tonal issue. But another approach that you can take is using an EQ pedal, and we're going to dive into that next. If you want to kind of fine tune this a little bit more, you can definitely use an EQ pedal instead. So again, the bass tone without an EQ pedal is just... But if we turn this on and we start doing something to it, we can kind of bring down these highs a little bit. And maybe we want to add just a little bit more low end to kind of compensate for the fact that it's a single coil. Now we go from this. Definitely beefens it up a little bit. Makes it a tad too dark for my liking, so maybe we'll do like a -2. That is a fantastic telly tone because it prevents it from getting too harsh and bright on the top end, and it just kind of beefs it up a little bit, which might even help it sit in the mix a little bit more if it's a little too thin, because then you need the bass to work a little bit more, so you can definitely kind of balance it out a little bit. How does that work on clean tones? Well, we go back to the clean tone here, and this is where we're going to want the volume boost, because again, by itself, the EQ is going to boost that low end a little bit. So for example, we get... So we're going to want to compensate there a little bit. I'm probably not going to take off any high end for this clean tone, but I'm definitely going to need to boost the volume. So right now, if you look at this leveling tool, we're at kind of floating around like -7 for the most part. So what if we had like 3 dB? Now it's starting to get a bit closer to where the humbucker was. If we were to move the EQ here in front of the amp, we won't be goosing the level as much. We're just going to be hitting the front end of the amp a little bit harder, which actually sounds really, really nice. Just at +3 and just a little bit of a bass boost is a great way to get a single coil guitar to sit as well as your humbucking guitars do. That's going to wrap up today's video. If you guys want to learn more about my Fractal Audio deep dives and deep tips, I've been offering one-on-one personal consultations for over a year now. You can hit me up through email. That should be in the description below. And I offer one-on-one Fractal lessons where we can go through preset making, deep dive tips and tricks, or I can go in and check out your own preset and help you enhance it to refine all of your effects parameters, make the amp sound better, and try different impulse responses. Until next time, everyone, if you want more content on the regular, I post on social media every single day. There's all sorts of covers, tips and tricks, demos, unboxings. There's pictures of new guitars that I get on the regular. You can see what it's like on tour with all my different bands. I post a lot of cool live footage there as well. Until next time, everyone, keep on following your dreams.